Hey team, Coach Thorman here, and man, I am super excited for today's video. We are going to be talking about the 9 worst assets to inherit. Okay? And this is really a big deal that most people don't put enough thought or pre-planning into. But did you know you can, as an inheritor, you can actually disclaim a portion of your inheritance?
Like, I don't want it.
I don't want it. As the giver, you want to make sure you're giving inheritance assets that people want, right? But also you want to make sure that it's tax efficient as possible. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, the 9 worst assets that you can give or get as an inheritance. And if it's on your list, then you're going to want to do something about it before it's too late.
Okay. Huddle up, team. We are John and Tara Thorman, your financial success coaches, and we help entrepreneurs and influencers, business leaders, and self-employed professionals to achieve financial freedom faster so they can enjoy it longer.
That's right. And so I'm an entrepreneur, a business consultant, and a financial planner with almost 20 years experience helping high achievers win their money games and create generational wealth.
And I am a faithful, passionate worshiper and a prayer warrior and a long-distance runner. I've completed 1 ultra marathon and 8 full marathons, 6 halves, and I run every day, no matter where we are, because since 2022, we've spent our time in different locations and can work remote.
So, babe, where's your medal?
Oh, the medal. There we go.
So Tara just ran the Marine Corps half marathon last weekend at Camp Lejeune in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Very good.
And she did awesome. So I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, there are 9 worst assets that we're going to cover today. The worst assets to give and get as an inheritance. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, first of all, number 1 is, and this may surprise a lot of you, it's the health savings account.
That's right.
Now, this is shockingly surprising, okay? Because it is by far the best account for you to save money in while you're alive, because you get the triple tax benefit, right? The money that goes into it every year, you get a tax deduction, it grows tax-free, and the money comes out tax-free when you spend it on qualifying medical expenses.
Okay.
And we're all going to have medical expenses,
right?
Super amazingly awesome account. And if you don't have one, get one. Check out our other video on the HSA. It'll fill you in on the details. But it's fine for your spouse to inherit your HSA when you die. But here's the catch.
Anybody else?
No bueno, okay? Anybody other than, so a non-spouse beneficiary of your HSA is going to get a massive tax bill. Like, this is not even a joke, okay? What happens is the HSA is terminated. As soon as you die, it's liquidated, and then the beneficiary has got to claim all that money as ordinary income in the year that you die. So imagine you got a couple $100,000 or more in your HSA, and it's going to your children or to one child. Well, that one child is going to get that $200,000. It's going to bump them up into a higher tax bracket, and they're paying taxes on the whole $200,000, which means they're not getting $200,000. Right? Maybe it bumps them into a 32% tax bracket or something, and a third of that money is gone to the government. I know that wasn't your plan as the owner of that HSA account, and it certainly wasn't on the radar of your child who's looking to receive all that money. So this is a huge problem. So you've got to plan ahead for this if you have an HSA with a big balance, because of course there's things you can do if you take proactive action before you die.
Number 2, timeshares.
Timeshares. I think they're the asset people love to hate the most.
Man,
right?
We hear there is no good thing about inheriting those.
Oh my goodness. So here's the deal, right? You've got a timeshare, and you've been paying on it forever, and you may love it or hate it, I don't know. But if you leave that to your children, let's assume it's paid off, right? You leave that to your children. Of course, they're going to have to assume all the annual expenses to maintain that timeshare. And maybe they don't want it. Maybe they don't like to travel even, or who knows, right? Maybe they just can't even afford the upkeep on that timeshare. But you just saddled them with this big monthly obligation and a debt, and that could be a really big problem. So this might be an asset that you want to disclaim. You don't have to take it. you could disclaim it and let it go to somebody else if it's just not going to work into your life.
Right.
But consider this timeshare situation and who you're going to leave it to or not. There may be some alternatives. Number 3.
Your valuable collectibles.
Now, I love this, right? So bequeathing your valuable collectibles to your loved ones is awesome, right? It's generous and personally rewarding gesture to share your passions, right, with your children or your grandchildren. So this could be, this
Like-
follows, what?
Like my Pyrex collection.
Like your Pyrex collection. You know, I didn't even include that when I was thinking about this,
Actually,
but that's legit.
the pink and the aqua are quite pricey. these
Valuable.
days, yeah.
Right. But think
You
about,
gotta love it,
so think about
and you gotta take care of it. Sorry.
your sports
And
Think about your sports memorabilia that's worth a lot of money. Your trading cards,
That's true.
right? But even and especially your gold and your silver coins or bars or rounds, whatever you've got there, some special piece of artwork by a famous artist. All of that stuff is extremely valuable. But there's some disadvantages to valuable collectibles that we need to consider. Now, you know, of course, that taxes are due if you sell the asset while you're alive. You're going to have capital gains tax due. Collectibles are different. They're your top marginal income tax bracket up to a maximum of 28%. So that could hurt or help you depending on your situation. The trade-off, the good part is if you leave the collectible to a loved one, then when they sell it, they get the step up in basis. So they don't have to pay capital gains tax on it.
Okay.
So that's a good thing, right? That's a super good thing. Well, here's some risks, though, that we have to consider and why it makes the list of one of the 9 worst assets to pass on. Number 1, your heirs may not appreciate the asset at all. They may not appreciate the collectible. What if they hate sports, and especially basketball, and you've got nothing but basketball collectibles and memorabilia and trading cards?
Right. And you can't put Pyrex in the microwave or a dishwasher. Everything is hand washed
Yeah.
to keep it in perfect condition.
So your heirs might not appreciate any of that, which means it's going to get wrecked, right? So they could throw it away. Could you imagine they throw it away? Or they sell it for pennies on the dollar at a garage sale because it's just junk to them.
Yeah.
They don't get it. That's definitely not what you had in mind from your decades of collecting that
Right.
stuff and pouring hours and hours over it, right?
All those fun auctions in Ohio.
For Pyrex auctions? Yeah. So you got to be aware of this and make sure that you've communicated ahead of time so that your beneficiary understands the value of this thing, right? Number 2, you may have hidden them, these valuable collectibles. You may have hidden them for safekeeping, and your heirs don't know where they are, right? Like there's people that put cash behind the drywall, like in the cavity space of the walls, or in the cavity space of the floor, or in cushions and secret safe places or whatever, right? So if you've done that with some collectibles and nobody knows about it, then they're going to get destroyed. They're going to get lost. Like that's just a bad move right there. Number 3, they may be difficult to value after you've passed,
Okay.
right? If your heir doesn't know enough about it, they could be really hard to value.
Okay.
So you got to be careful about that. And number 4, they could be quite illiquid, meaning they can't turn into cash quickly or easily. And that could be a problem, especially if the beneficiary needs cash now.
Right.
Then it's like a fire sale and they'll sell that, highly prized trading card for pennies on the dollar. Again, you don't want that to happen. So this could be a really bad asset to give or to get for lack of information and understanding, and it's up to you as the giver to make sure that they know what's going on there. And number 4, guns.
I just inherited my grandpa's 2 shotguns. Woo woo!
No, I did. I just inherited my grandpa's. No, actually, I didn't just inherit it, but I did inherit my grandpa's 2 shotguns.
Yeah.
And so I was a kid, and we had these shotguns in the basement, and I was asking Dad about them, and he said, those were his dad's. They were Grandpa's guns, and he was a big avid hunter. But Dad was not. He had a bad experience with Grandpa hunting ducks, and so it turned him off of the whole thing. And
I don't know this story.
Yeah.
We'll save it.
So anyway, he never got into it, and so they were just sitting there, and basically, I just asked if I could have them. I just took them.
Okay.
But I took them to a gun shop, and I had them cleaned up and prepped up and whatever. And because I wanted to learn how to do sporting clays, shoot sporting clays, like skeet and trap. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I love it. So it was extra cool that they were grandpa's, because grandpa died when I was like 4 years old, and I really don't have any memory of him.
Mm-hmm.
So it was special to get those guns. But that was 30 years ago, y'all. And
you don't even have them. They're still in Canada.
they're still in Canada at a friend's house. Yeah.
Because of all the laws and rules and
Right. Try to get weapons across the border now, okay?
Can't.
You can, but it's like a lot of red
Impossible.
tape. Yeah.
No, it's not.
But so here's the deal. Guns are a challenge to inherit.
Right.
And especially if they have to cross state lines.
Yeah.
And especially if you live in
Right. Forget a country, even state lines.
yeah, especially if you live in very gun restrictive
Yeah.
law states like New York.
Mm-hmm.
Insanity, okay? I read this, and they were like, for New York, when someone dies, their executor can hold on to those guns for only 15 days
Is that
without
right?
incurring criminal liability. Yeah, very short time frame. Like, you're not going to get through probate in 15 days, right?
No.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So what usually happens is you have to take the guns to a police department or a gun shop and have them hold them for you
Is that right?
until you get through the probate. So
Okay.
it's an issue. So it depends by state. It depends on the type of gun. You got all these hurdles to go through. So make sure, if you've got a gun collection, that you're planning ahead on how to, best pass those on to, your beneficiaries. And if you know you're getting some of Grandpa's guns, make sure you are reaching out to Grandpa and you're figuring this stuff out, because there's some laws in
You can't even get
place.
bullets for Grandpa's guns anymore.
No, you can. Unless they're way old and they're whatever. Okay. All right. Number 5. I was surprised when I saw this listing. They said one of the worst assets to inherit is an operating business.
Right.
I'm like, what? I would love to inherit a profitable operating business, right? And I know, especially for you too, like your grandpa had the bakery. And the bakery, then his sons took over the bakery and kept running it. Now, that was the end of it, because then the boys sold it, so it hasn't continued on in the family to the third generation. It stopped at the second. But this was surprising to me, and I'm going to disagree with this, but I'm including it in here because it could be a really big problem, again, if you don't plan ahead, right? I believe in the power of the family business to create generational wealth. I think it's vitally important, and today's children are missing out on a lot. Like, how do you pass on your assets, your cash flow generating assets, the family business, when they go off to college and want to pursue a career that nobody else in the family has done before? Like, you can't do that, right? So they're at a disadvantage, and they're starting from not zero, they're starting out worse than zero, because they're saddled with all this, university, school, student loan debt, right? So it's a problem, it's a challenge. So the operating business is tricky, and it could be the worst asset to give if you don't have it planned ahead of time, if you don't have a succession plan, if you don't have funding mechanisms in place to fund the buy-sell agreements that you should have, right? Or the funding mechanisms in place to buy out the assets so that there's cash that can go to the rest of the family. And what I'm talking about here, the tool used most often is life insurance. You got to use the right kind of life insurance for buy-sell agreements, for being able to produce the cash so that your family can buy out that company. This can get tricky and complicated. And so the problem is that if you haven't done this pre-planning, you're setting up your family for failure. Like, could you imagine the fighting over why John gets, control of the company and the shares and Julie doesn't? Like, ugh. And you've got nothing left over for Julie. Like, oh my gosh, that could be terrible. So you got to plan ahead for this.
Number 6, vacation properties.
Oh, the cottage on the lake.
Yeah.
Right? How fun. But if you went to the cottage on the lake with your family growing up, and you had your siblings there and your cousins there and all these kind of friends there, what happens when dad dies or grandpa dies, and where's that cottage on the lake going? This can create a whole bunch of problems. It's great because as an asset, again, you get the step up, provision, right? So that whoever's inheriting it doesn't have to pay capital gains tax on the appreciated value of that property. But there could be a whole bunch of, if you try to give that to a bunch of family members to share, now, they each have equal ownership, but they each maybe aren't going to be able to participate in using that property the same, right? You might have, this cottage on the lake up in northern Michigan, but a brother lives in Texas. Like, he's not getting back to Michigan to utilize that. So he's going to feel left out, and everybody else that still lives in Michigan can use it all the time. And the roof needs to be replaced, and it's like $20,000. Well, the dude in Texas is not going to pay for that because he never uses it. So you can see the kind of challenges that can come up here, right? Again, this is vacation properties you got to be very careful of and plan ahead so that we have some, equal usage or equal opportunity, equal equity.
So it's done properly.
Yeah, do it properly. Do the homework and figure this thing out. And maybe it's best that you put that into a trust, right? Put that thing into a trust with cash to provide the money, cash flow for repairs and maintenance and all that kind of stuff, with the instructions to sell it and then divide the money up.
Okay.
Right? That might be a better way to go about that.
Can you do that same thing with timeshares too? Put a timeshare in a trust?
I imagine you could.
Yeah.
Have to talk to an attorney. Yeah, probably.
Number 7, any physical property with sentimental value.
Yes. Yeah. So family feuds don't just happen over business interests or valuable collectibles or vacation homes. Oftentimes it's the personal property that has sentimental value that creates a lot of problems, right? Like, who's going to get mom's wedding rings?
I see. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, that could be an issue. Or who's going to get, grandma's brooch, right, with the big diamond in it or something. I don't know. Like, that stuff happens. So that could be an asset that is really problematic, and you're going to want to talk about it beforehand. You see how much of this is communication and pre-planning?
It's huge.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And attached to a memory and all of it. Just talk and do it well ahead of time.
Right, because the last thing you want to do is think you're doing the right thing and pass on this asset, and then you create this family feud and everybody's fighting and the relationships are shattered. Like, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
All right, number 8. This is a big one. The Thrift Savings Plan. Remember, the Thrift Savings Plan is the largest employer retirement plan in the world, right? This is for federal employees. They get to benefit from this. Now, there's some issues here because it's so big, the service isn't great, right? But it's fine for your spouse. Okay, so if I have a thrift service plan, I'm a federal employee, and I put into this TSP forever, it's fine for you to be the beneficiary and take over the plan. That's really easy, right? Transfer of ownership, you're on the account now. It's like an IRA, right? The problem arises if it goes to the next generation. If I'm gone and you have the TSP, and then when you die, you want your children to get it, that's where the problem arises. Because, like the HSA, they can't get an inherited TSP account. The account has to be liquidated, and it's counted as taxable income in the year that they get it, and that is very tax inefficient. Very tax inefficient, and you don't want to do that with your retirement money. Then lastly, 401ks and traditional IRA. So traditional 401k, traditional IRA, again, they're not tax efficient because you're going to have to pay taxes on that money, and you're going to have to do it over a 10-year time period. We don't have the stretch IRA provisions anymore. Those were changed. So your inheritance, the people that inherit your money are going to have to pull it all out within a 10-year window, and they're going to have to pay taxes on it. And again, that could bump them up into a higher tax bracket or not, but it's going to be taxable as current income to the person who is receiving it. And that could be not tax efficient and maybe not the best way to use your money. So you want to look for some alternative solutions to plan for that, because they're out there. There's things you can do if you take the time to plan ahead and be strategic about it, right? This asset goes here, this asset goes here. Maybe we buy some life insurance and use that as a different asset to give, because you can get leverage on that money and it's tax free. Maybe you look at charitable remainder trusts with some assets, right? Because the charity's not going to have to pay taxes on those tax deferred assets that you give them.
Okay.
But you can get a tax benefit, a tax deduction now, and receive income while you're alive. There's a lot of fun, cool stuff you can do here in the estate planning stages that you're going to want to explore. So definitely do that. Please crush that crush that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends, and be sure to watch more of our videos so that you can win your financial freedom faster so you can enjoy it longer. See you on the next video.
Very good, hon.